The massive alien ship appeared over Earth's skies without warning. It wasn't the sleek, threatening vessel that humanity had always imagined in their movies and books. Instead, it looked beaten, scarred, and desperate. Hull plates were missing, strange fluids leaked from various ports, and entire sections seemed to be held together with what could only be described as space duct tape. Commander Sarah Mitchell stood in the United Nations Emergency Assembly, watching the live feed from the International Space Station. The alien vessel had been broadcasting the same message in broken English for 3 hours now. "Please, we need help. Dying. Children dying. Please help." The voice that came through the speakers was unlike anything anyone had ever heard. It was melodic, almost like singing, but filled with such pain and desperation that it made hardened military officers shift uncomfortably in their seats. "They've been trying to communicate for hours," Dr. Elena Vasquez, the lead xenolinguist, reported to the assembly. "Our AI translation systems have been working overtime. From what we can understand, they're not here to invade. They're refugees." Secretary General Chen Wei leaned forward in his chair. "Refugees from what?" Before Dr. Vasquez could answer, the main screen flickered. The static cleared, and for the first time in human history, they were looking at an alien face. The creature was beautiful in an otherworldly way. Its skin shimmered like mother of pearl, and its large eyes held depths that seemed to reflect entire galaxies. But those eyes were filled with tears, and its elegant features were twisted with grief. "My name is HFY of the Melodic Winds," the alien said, its voice now clearer through the improved connection. "I speak for what remains of my people, the Veltar. We come to you not as conquerors, but as the dying, seeking help from those we have heard possess strength beyond measure." The assembly hall fell silent. Every translator worked frantically as HFY continued. "Our worlds are gone. Our children are dying from a plague that consumes light itself. It spreads through our ships, through our bodies, turning everything it touches into shadow and death. We have fled across the galaxy, seeking anyone who might have knowledge to help us." Commander Mitchell stepped forward. "Why Earth? Why did you come here?" HFY's expression shifted, showing something that might have been hope. "Because the galaxy whispers about the Deathworlders of Sol 3. They say you are the species that thrives where others die, that you have conquered diseases that would destroy entire civilizations, that you live on a world so hostile, so dangerous, that merely surviving there makes you legends among the stars." Dr. Vasquez quickly typed on her tablet and showed it to the Secretary General. "Sir, they're referring to Earth as a death world. From what I'm gathering from their language patterns, most inhabited worlds in the galaxy are far more hospitable than Earth. They think we're incredibly hardy because we evolved here." "But we need to see proof of your abilities," HFY continued. "Our scouts observed your world from a distance. They watched your people survive in conditions that would kill most galactic species within minutes. They saw humans living in deserts where the temperature could melt our ships' hulls. They witnessed your kind thriving in frozen wasteland where the cold would instantly freeze our blood. They observed humans diving into crushing depths of water that would implode our strongest vessels." The alien's voice grew stronger. "They watched your medical practitioners combat diseases that our greatest healers fled from in terror. They saw children playing in radiation levels that would be considered uninhabitable by galactic standards. Most incredible of all, they witnessed humans deliberately injecting themselves with weakened versions of deadly diseases to build immunity. A practice so insane that most species consider it a form of ritual suicide." Secretary General Chen Wei stood up. "You're talking about vaccinations." "Yes. This vaccination technique. Among the stars, it is considered the most extreme form of biological warfare one could inflict upon oneself. Yet your people do it to their children as routine medical care. Your species weaponizes diseases against themselves to become stronger. This is why we believe you might be able to help us." Commander Mitchell felt a chill run down her spine. "What exactly are you asking us to do?" HFY's image flickered as their ship apparently suffered another systems failure. When the connection stabilized, the alien looked even more desperate. "The shadow plague has followed us across the galaxy. Our medical technology, which can cure most known diseases in the galaxy, is useless against it. The plague consumes medical nanobots as food. It corrupts energy-based healing fields. It turns our own immune systems against us. But we have heard that Deathworlders like humans have something different, something primitive and brutal that might work where sophistication fails." Dr. Vasquez was frantically taking notes. "They're talking about our biological immune systems. Most advanced galactic species appear to rely on technology for medical treatment. They might have evolved past having robust natural immune systems." "Our children are dying," HFY said, its voice breaking. "In the lower sections of our ships, the plague spreads faster. We have lost 60% of our population in the past galactic cycle. We cannot land on any world because the plague would spread there too. We are trapped in space, watching our people fade away like dying stars." The alien leaned closer to its communication device. "But there is more you must know. The plague is not natural. It was created by the Devourers, a species that consumes entire civilizations. They release it ahead of their fleets to weaken their targets. When they arrive, they find worlds already devastated, easy to conquer and harvest." A murmur of concern rippled through the assembly hall. "They are coming," HFY continued. "Our long-range sensors detect their scout ships following the plague's trail. They will be here in 30 of your days. If the plague is still active when they arrive, they will assume Earth is already weakened and will attempt to harvest your world as well." Commander Mitchell felt her blood run cold. "Are you saying that by helping you, we'd also be defending Earth?" "Yes. The Devourers have consumed thousands of worlds this way. But if the plague can be stopped, if it can be cured, they might believe this system is too dangerous to attack. They fear only one thing in the galaxy: worlds that can fight back effectively." Secretary General Chen Wei looked around the assembly hall. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat in stunned silence, processing the implications. "What do you need from us specifically?" Dr. Vasquez asked. HFY's expression showed something that humans would recognize as desperate hope. "We need your Deathworlder medical practices. We need your primitive but effective biological systems. We need you to do what you do best: survive the unsurvivable and cure the incurable." The alien paused, then added with quiet dignity, "We offer you all our knowledge, all our technology, everything we have learned in our thousands of cycles among the stars. Our ships contain medical databases that could advance your civilization by millennia. We have star charts to worlds beyond your imagination. We carry the cultural treasures of a dozen extinct civilizations we tried to save. But if our children die, if our people fade away, all of that knowledge dies with us. We are not asking for charity. We are proposing an exchange between civilizations, one that might save both our species." The communication flickered again, and warning sounds could be heard in the background of the alien ship. "I must return to the medical bays," HFY said urgently. "More of our young ones are failing. Please, Deathworlders of Earth, consider our request. We will maintain orbit and await your decision. But please decide quickly. Time is a luxury we no longer possess." The screen went dark, leaving the assembly hall in profound silence. Commander Mitchell looked around at faces filled with shock, fear, and determination. "Well," Secretary General Chen Wei said finally, "I don't think any of us expected first contact to go quite like this." Dr. Vasquez stood up, her tablet clutched tightly in her hands. Sir, if even half of what they said is true, we're not just talking about helping refugees. We're talking about defending Earth from something that sounds like it's destroyed thousands of civilizations. Commander Mitchell nodded grimly. And they think we can do it because we're from what they consider a death world, because we evolved to survive in conditions that most galactic species consider uninhabitable. The question is, Secretary General Chen Wei said, looking out at the representatives from every nation on Earth, are they right? Can we help them? And more importantly, should we? Outside the assembly hall, the alien ship continued its silent orbit, carrying the hopes and fears of two species that had never met, but whose fates were now intertwined by circumstance, desperation, and the thin hope that sometimes the most primitive solutions work where the most advanced ones fail. The clock on the wall ticked loudly in the silence, counting down the time until humanity would have to give its answer to the stars. Dr. Sarah Chen wiped the sweat from her brow as she stared at the biological samples displayed on her laboratory screens. 48 hours had passed since the alien ship arrived, and the world's best medical minds had been working around the clock to understand the shadow plague. "This is impossible," muttered Dr. James Harrison from the Centers for Disease Control. "According to every model we have, this organism shouldn't exist. It's like it's made of concentrated entropy." The samples had been transported to Earth via sterilized drone pods, with the aliens insisting that no human should come aboard their ship until the plague was understood. What the human scientists found defied explanation. "It doesn't just attack living cells," Dr. Chen said, pointing to her screen. "It attacks the very concept of organization itself. Watch this." She played a recording showing a healthy human blood cell being exposed to a microscopic amount of the plague. Instead of the cell dying or being consumed, it simply stopped. The cellular machinery didn't break down. It didn't explode or dissolve. It just ceased to function, as if someone had turned off a switch. "It's not killing the cell," Dr. Harrison said in amazement. "It's making the cell forget how to be alive." Dr. Maria Santos from the São Paulo Institute of Tropical Medicine leaned over their shoulders. "But look at this. We exposed the same sample to human white blood cells and something different happened." The recording showed human immune cells encountering the plague. For the first few minutes, the same thing happened. The cells stopped functioning. But then something unprecedented occurred. Some of the cells started working again. "They adapted," Dr. Chen whispered. "In real time, they adapted." "That's not scientifically possible," Dr. Harrison protested. "Cellular adaptation takes generations, not minutes." Dr. Santos smiled grimly. "Not for Deathworlders, apparently." In another part of the facility, Commander Mitchell was reviewing reports from around the globe. Every major medical institution on Earth had been mobilized. The response had been swift and comprehensive in a way that surprised even seasoned military professionals. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Torres approached with a tablet, "we're getting reports from unusual sources." Mitchell looked up from her papers. "What kind of unusual?" "Traditional healers, shamans, folk medicine practitioners. Word has gotten out about the alien plague, and they're all volunteering their knowledge. We've got reports coming in from the Amazon rainforest, the Himalayas, remote villages in Africa, and indigenous communities across North America." "And?" "They're all saying the same thing independently. They want to try something they call fighting fire with fire. They're talking about using controlled exposure to weakened pathogens to build resistance." Mitchell raised an eyebrow. "Vaccination techniques. But older ones, ma'am. Much older. Some of these practices go back thousands of years from times when humans didn't have modern medical technology." Before Mitchell could respond, Dr. Vasquez burst into the room. "Commander, we need to see the alien ship. They've given us permission to send a small team aboard." "Is it safe?" "They've isolated a section of their ship. No plague exposure. But what they want to show us..." It's important. 2 hours later, Commander Mitchell found herself in a spacesuit, floating through the docking bay of an alien vessel. The technology around her was beautiful and incomprehensible, but what struck her most was how clean everything looked. Too clean. HFY met them at the airlock. The alien moved with fluid grace, but Mitchell could see the exhaustion in its posture. "Thank you for coming, Commander Mitchell. What we must show you will help you understand why we believe only Deathworlders can help us." They floated through corridors that seemed to be grown rather than built, organic curves that pulsed with soft light. Everything was sterile, perfect, without a single mark or imperfection. "Your ship is beautiful," Dr. Chen said through the communication system. "This is how all Veltar technology appears," HFY replied. "We eliminated disease from our civilization millennia ago. Our bodies, our ships, our worlds, everything was purified. We thought we had achieved perfection." They arrived at a large viewing port. Beyond the transparent material, Mitchell could see a section of the ship that looked completely different. It was dark, twisted, and wrong in ways that made her eyes hurt to look at it. "The plague started in our medical bay," HFY explained. "We thought it was just another pathogen to be easily eliminated by our purification systems, but it consumed our technology. It turned our sterile perfection against us." Dr. Chen studied the darkened section. "It's like it's allergic to cleanliness." "Exactly. The more perfect our environment, the faster it spreads. We tried to fight it with our most advanced medical systems, and it grew stronger. We tried to purify infected areas, and it multiplied. Everything that made us advanced made us vulnerable." HFY turned to face the humans. "But you come from a world where disease and danger are constant companions. Your bodies know how to fight. Your medicine knows how to be imperfect but effective. What we need is not sophistication. We need controlled chaos." Commander Mitchell began to understand. "You need us to fight dirty. We need you to fight like Deathworlders." Back on Earth, the global medical response was unlike anything in human history. In Beijing, traditional Chinese medicine practitioners were working alongside molecular biologists. In Geneva, Swiss pharmaceutical companies were collaborating with African witch doctors. In Atlanta, the CDC was consulting with Native American healers who had kept smallpox treatments alive through oral tradition. Dr. Santos found herself in the middle of the most unusual medical conference ever assembled. Representatives from every healing tradition on Earth were sharing knowledge that had never been written down, passed through generations by word of mouth. "The old ways," said Dr. William Crow Feather, a traditional healer from the Lakota Nation. "When smallpox came to our people, some of us survived not because we had perfect medicine, but because we had survived other diseases. Our bodies knew how to remember enemies." Professor Zhang Wei from the Traditional Chinese Medicine University nodded. "The principle of using poison to fight poison. We learned long ago that sometimes the cure must be as dangerous as the disease. In the Amazon," added Dr. Isabella Mendoza, "we learned to make allies of the forest's dangers. Every plant that could kill could also heal, if used correctly." Dr. Santos looked at the assembled group. "What you're all describing is controlled exposure to danger, building immunity through surviving manageable threats. The aliens evolved in safe worlds," Dr. Chen added via video link from the space station. "They never had to develop these techniques because they never needed them. But humans had to learn to survive on a world that was actively trying to kill us. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a virologist from Tokyo, was working with samples from both the alien plague and human immune responses when her 8-year-old daughter interrupted her work. "Mama, why are you trying to make the bad germs go away?" little Akari asked, looking at the microscope images on the screen. "Because they're making the alien children sick, sweetie." Akari studied the images with the serious expression that only children can manage. "But you always said that when I get sick, my body learns to fight the sickness better next time." Dr. Tanaka paused, her hands hovering over her keyboard. "That's right. Your immune system remembers. So why don't you teach the bad germs to fight each other instead of fighting the good cells?" The room fell silent. Dr. Tanaka stared at her daughter, then at the samples, then back at her daughter. "Akari, you might be the smartest person on this planet right now." Within hours, laboratories around the world were working on a radically different approach. Instead of trying to destroy the shadow plague, they were trying to teach it to attack itself. They were creating controlled environments where weakened versions of the plague would compete with stronger versions, forcing both to adapt and evolve. "It's like vaccination, but for the disease itself," Dr. Harrison explained to Commander Mitchell. "We're giving the plague a taste of its own medicine." The first results were promising. In laboratory conditions, samples of the plague began showing signs of internal conflict. Different strains started attacking each other instead of attacking healthy cells. "The aliens were right," Dr. Chen reported from her space station laboratory. "This is exactly the kind of controlled chaos that their sterile medical systems couldn't handle. They needed something messy, something unpredictable, something that fights dirty." But the real test would come when they tried the treatment on actual alien patients. The Veltar had agreed to allow a small group of human medical professionals aboard their ship, but only with extensive protective equipment. Dr. Santos suited up alongside a team that represented the best of human medicine, traditional and modern, Eastern and Western, technological and intuitive. As she prepared to leave Earth's atmosphere for the first time, she thought about her grandmother's words about fighting fire with fire. "Ready, team?" Commander Mitchell asked over the communication system. "As ready as anyone can be to practice Deathworlder medicine on aliens dying from an impossible plague while being chased by galaxy-consuming monsters," Dr. Santos replied. "So, just another Tuesday for human medical professionals," Dr. Harrison added with grim humor. As their shuttle approached the alien ship, carrying hope in the form of controlled chaos and primitive yet effective treatments, none of them knew that the real test was yet to come. Because 30 days was rapidly approaching, and somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Devourers' scout ships were drawing closer, expecting to find a world already weakened by plague. Instead, they would find something the galaxy had never seen before. Deathworlders who turned diseases against themselves, who made allies of their enemies, and who fought the impossible with weapons so primitive that they circled back around to being revolutionary. The Shadow Plague had met its match in the form of organized, weaponized, highly educated chaos. And that was just the beginning of what humanity could do. The medical bay aboard the Veltar vessel hummed with activity unlike anything it had ever experienced. Where once there had been sterile silence and perfect order, now there was controlled chaos. Human medical equipment sat alongside alien healing pods, creating a hybrid workspace that looked like organized madness. Dr. Van Santos watched as the first Veltar child received the treatment. The little alien, no bigger than a human infant, lay in a specialized containment field while microscopic doses of the modified plague were introduced to its system. "Heart rate increasing," Dr. Chen reported, monitoring the child's vital signs through alien medical sensors they were still learning to read. "But that's expected. The body is recognizing the threat." HFY stood nearby, its large eyes filled with hope and terror. "In our medical tradition, an increase in what you call heart rate always meant impending death." "In human medicine," Dr. Harrison explained gently, "it often means the body is waking up to fight." The treatment was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of destroying the plague directly, the humans had engineered a version that attacked the original disease while also teaching the patient's immune system to recognize and combat similar threats. It was biological warfare turned into biological education. "The modified plague is engaging the original," Dr. Santos announced, watching the cellular activity on her monitors. "The child's system is learning to identify the enemy." For tense minutes, they watched as microscopic warfare played out in the young alien's bloodstream. The Veltar adults held their breath, while the human medical team monitored dozens of different indicators. Then, something beautiful happened. The darkness that had been creeping through the child's circulatory system began to retreat. Not destroyed, but contained, identified, remembered. "It's working," Dr. Chen whispered. "The child's immune system is adapting in real time," Dr. Harrison added in amazement. "It's learning to fight back." HFY made a sound that the translation software struggled to interpret, but the meaning was clear. It was the sound of a parent watching their child take their first breath after nearly drowning. Within hours, they were treating adult volunteers. The process was more complex for older Veltar, whose systems had been fighting the plague longer, but the principle remained the same. Teach the disease to fight itself while teaching the patient to fight the disease. "Status report from all medical teams." Commander Mitchell's voice came through the communication system from the command center they had established aboard the alien ship. "Medical Bay Alpha reports 15 successful treatments, no adverse reactions," Dr. Santos replied. "Medical Bay Beta, 12 successful treatments, 2 patients showing delayed response but improving," Dr. Harrison reported from another section of the ship. "Medical Bay Gamma, 18 successful treatments and something interesting," Dr. Chen added from the 3rd treatment center. "The patients here are reporting increased energy levels and improved cognitive function compared to their pre-plague baseline." Commander Mitchell paused. "Come again?" "Commander, the treatment isn't just curing the plague. It's making the patients healthier than they were before they got sick." This was when they discovered something remarkable about Deathworlder medicine. The Veltar had spent millennia eliminating all diseases from their environment, making their bodies incredibly efficient but also incredibly specialized. They had never developed the broad-spectrum immune responses that humans took for granted. The treatment wasn't just teaching them to fight the shadow plague, it was teaching them to fight everything. Their immune systems were getting a crash course in thousands of years of human evolutionary adaptation. "We're essentially giving them our immune system knowledge," Dr. Santos explained to HFY. "Every disease humanity has ever survived, every adaptation we've made, every trick our bodies learned, we're sharing all of it." "This is beyond our wildest hopes," HFY replied, its voice filled with wonder. "Our medical historians will study this for generations. You are not just saving us, you are making us stronger than we have ever been." But the celebration was short-lived. Lieutenant Torres burst into the medical bay with urgent news. "Commander Mitchell, we're receiving transmissions from the outer system. Long-range sensors have detected multiple ships approaching at high speed." "The Devourers?" Mitchell asked. "Has to be. ETA 18 hours. The medical teams worked frantically to treat as many Veltar as possible before the enemy arrived. But there were thousands of aliens aboard the refugee ships, and they had treated less than 100. That's when Dr. Santos had an idea that was either brilliant or completely insane. "What if we don't need to treat everyone individually?" she suggested during an emergency planning session. "Explain," Commander Mitchell said. "The plague spreads through contact, right? What if we could make the cure spread the same way?" Dr. Harrison stared at her. "You want to weaponize the treatment? I want to make it contagious. Create a version of our modified plague that spreads beneficial immunity instead of death." It was the kind of idea that would have horrified any civilized galactic species. Deliberately creating a contagious biological agent and releasing it into a population was considered the ultimate taboo in interstellar law. But humans weren't bound by galactic law, and they were running out of time. Working with a speed that amazed their alien hosts, the human medical teams created what they privately called the Good Plague, a modified version of their treatment that could spread from person to person, carrying immunity and healing instead of death and destruction. "This is madness," HFY said, watching them work. "To deliberately create a contagious agent? To deliberately create a contagious cure," Dr. Santos corrected. "Trust us. This is what Deathworlders do. We take the weapons used against us and turn them into tools for survival." The release was timed perfectly. As the treated Veltar returned to the general population, they carried with them invisible allies. The beneficial plague spread through the ship's population faster than any medicine could have been distributed. Within hours, the Shadow Plague was not just contained. It was being actively hunted down by armies of modified immune responses throughout the refugee fleet. "Status report," Commander Mitchell requested. "Plague activity down to 15% of original levels and falling," Dr. Chen reported. "General population showing signs of immunity activation," Dr. Harrison added. "And Commander," Dr. Santos said with a grin that was audible in her voice, "we've got incoming ships requesting permission to approach." "More Devourers?" "No, ma'am. More refugees. Word is spreading through the galactic communication networks. Other species are hearing about the Deathworlder cure." By the time the Devourer scout ships arrived in the system, they found something completely unexpected. Instead of a world weakened by plague, they discovered a thriving alliance between humanity and grateful galactic refugees. The lead Devourer ship transmitted the standard demand for surrender, expecting the usual response of fear and submission. Instead, they received a message that would become legendary throughout the galaxy. "This is Commander Sarah Mitchell of the Human Defense Force," came the response. "You are approaching a system under the protection of Earth and its allies. Your Shadow Plague has been not only cured, but turned into a weapon against itself. Your psychological warfare has failed. You have 30 seconds to alter course, or we will demonstrate why the galaxy calls us Deathworlders." The Devourer response was predictable. They attacked. What followed was less a battle and more a demonstration. The Veltar ships, now crewed by healthy aliens with supercharged immune systems, fought alongside human vessels with a ferocity that shocked the attackers. But the real surprise came when the humans deployed their newest weapon, weaponized medicine. "Launching medical torpedoes," reported the human tactical officer with barely contained glee. The torpedoes were actually modified medical drones carrying concentrated doses of the beneficial plague. They struck the Devourer ships and released clouds of the therapeutic agent into their ventilation systems. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Devourers had relied on biological warfare for so long that their own immune systems were nearly non-existent. When exposed to even the beneficial version of their own plague, their bodies didn't know how to respond. They didn't die. The humans had specifically designed the treatment to heal rather than harm, but they became violently, incapacitatingly sick as their systems tried to process and adapt to the therapeutic agents. "This is impossible," the lead Devourer commander transmitted. "We are the plague masters. We are the disease bringers. How are you turning our own weapons against us?" "Because," Commander Mitchell replied, "you made the mistake of attacking Deathworlders. We don't just survive diseases, we make friends with them." The Devourer fleet retreated in chaos, their crews too sick to fight effectively, but slowly recovering as the beneficial plague did its work. They would return to their home worlds changed, carrying with them immunity to their own biological weapons and stories of the species that had turned medicine into warfare and warfare into medicine. In the aftermath, as the refugee fleet prepared to establish a new colony in the outer system under Earth's protection, HFY approached Commander Mitchell. "Our long-range communications are already spreading word throughout the galaxy," the alien said. "The species that cured the incurable plague. The Deathworlders who made weapons out of healing and turned diseases into allies. What does that mean for humanity? Mitchell asked. It means the galaxy now knows that Earth is not to be trifled with. Not because you are aggressive, but because you are impossibly, brilliantly adaptable. You take the worst things that can happen to a species and turn them into advantages. HFY paused, its large eyes reflecting the light from Earth in the distance. The Devourers have plagued the galaxy for millennia because they understood one simple truth. Disease is universal, and most species fear it. But they never encountered a species that had learned to befriend disease, to dance with danger, to make allies of their enemies. Dr. Santos joined them, having just finished the last of the medical treatments. The best part is, this is just standard human medicine. We've been doing this kind of thing for thousands of years. We just never thought it was particularly impressive. The galaxy disagrees, HFY said with what might have been laughter. The communication networks are calling it the Deathworlder solution. Species across the galaxy are requesting permission to send their medical experts to Earth to learn your techniques. And the Veltar? Commander Mitchell asked. We will stay, if you will have us. We wish to establish the first permanent galactic embassy on Earth. We want to learn everything we can about Deathworlder medicine, Deathworlder thinking, Deathworlder problem-solving. As they watched the stars together, with refugee ships safely in orbit and Earth's first alien allies settling in for a long partnership, none of them could have predicted that this was just the beginning. Word was already spreading through the galactic networks about the humans who had turned a galaxy-spanning plague into a cure, who had made biological warfare obsolete by teaching diseases to heal instead of harm, and who had done it all with such casual competence that they considered it routine medical practice. The Devourers had intended to introduce Earth to the galaxy as another conquered world. Instead, they had accidentally introduced the galaxy to humanity's greatest strength, the ability to take the absolute worst situation and somehow make it better for everyone involved. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun, not through conquest or colonization, but through the simple act of sharing the hard-won wisdom of a species that had learned to thrive in impossible conditions. The Deathworlders had delivered, just as the aliens had hoped. They had delivered far more than anyone had dared to dream.